In a galaxy far beyond human imagination, where stars burned like eternal lanterns and planets floated in serene silence, humanity had finally taken its place among the stars. After centuries of isolation on Earth, humans had ventured into space, forging alliances with alien civilizations that were as strange as they were wise. Among these extraterrestrial races stood the Xyrethians, a species whose crystalline cities shimmered under twin suns and whose people radiated an aura of grace and mystery. Dr. Elias Carter, a seasoned diplomat from Earth, sat aboard the sleek silver cruiser Aurora Dawn, staring out at the vast expanse of space. His mission was urgent, yet shrouded in secrecy. The summons from Queen Valithra, ruler of the Xyrethian Empire, had come without explanation, leaving him uneasy. He couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental awaited him, a revelation that could either unite or divide the fragile bond between humans and aliens. As the cruiser approached the Xyrethian homeworld, Elias marveled at the sight before him. The planet was breathtakingly beautiful, its surface dotted with towering spires made of translucent crystal that refracted light into dazzling rainbows. Rivers of liquid light flowed across the landscape, glowing softly against the pale lavender sky. It was a world unlike anything he'd ever seen, one that seemed almost too perfect to be real. When the ship landed in the grand docking bay of the royal palace, Elias was greeted by a delegation of Xyrethian guards. Their elongated frames and shimmering skin gave them an otherworldly appearance, but it was their eyes, large, luminous orbs filled with intelligence, that captured his attention. They led him through corridors lined with intricate carvings that told stories of ancient battles and celestial wonders. Every step felt heavy with history, and Elias found himself growing more curious and more anxious with each passing moment. Finally, he arrived at the throne room, a cavernous chamber bathed in soft golden light. At its center sat Queen Valithra, her presence commanding yet serene. Her flowing robes sparkled like stardust, and her crown, an elaborate structure of interwoven crystals, seemed to hum faintly with energy. Beside her stood Princess Lyria, her daughter, whose beauty was said to rival even the most radiant constellations. Elias bowed respectfully, his heart pounding in his chest. "Your Majesty," he began, his voice steady despite his nerves, "I am honored to stand before you." Queen Valithra inclined her head slightly, acknowledging his greeting. Then she spoke, her voice melodic yet authoritative. "Dr. Carter, we have summoned you here today because our worlds face a challenge unlike any we have encountered before. Something extraordinary has occurred, something that will require not just diplomacy but understanding." Before Elias could respond, the Queen gestured toward Lyria, who stepped forward hesitantly. For the first time, Elias noticed the sadness in her violet eyes, a stark contrast to her otherwise regal demeanor. She held out her arms, revealing a small bundle cradled within, a newborn child swaddled in silken fabric. What happened next left Elias speechless. As the cloth shifted slightly, he caught a glimpse of the infant's face and froze. The child looked entirely human. There was no trace of the Xyrethian features that marked every member of their race. No shimmering skin, no elongated limbs, no luminous eyes. Instead, there was roundness to the cheeks, tiny fingers curled into fists, and a tuft of dark hair atop the head. How? Elias managed to choke out, unable to form a complete sentence. His mind raced with questions. How could this happen? Was it some kind of scientific experiment, a biological anomaly, or perhaps something far stranger? Lyria lowered her gaze, her expression pained. "This is Solon," she said softly, her words carrying a weight that silenced the room. "He is my son." The revelation struck like a thunderclap. A human child born to a Xyrethian princess. It defied logic, biology, everything Elias thought he knew about interspecies relations. Yet there was no denying the evidence before him. The child was undeniably human, yet unmistakably hers. For several moments, no one spoke. The gravity of the situation hung thick in the air. Finally, Queen Valithra broke the silence. "We do not know how this came to be," she admitted, her tone measured but tinged with concern. "But we believe it is tied to events that transcend both our peoples. We need your help, Dr. Carter, to uncover the truth, not just for us, but for all who call this galaxy home." Elias nodded slowly, still processing what he had just learned. Whatever the explanation, one thing was clear: this discovery would change everything. It wasn't just a matter of science or politics, it was a question of destiny. And as he looked at the sleeping child in Lyria's arms, he couldn't help but wonder if Solon might hold the key to something far greater than anyone could imagine. Back on Earth, news of the mysterious birth spread quickly. Social media erupted with theories and debates. Some hailed the event as a miracle, proof that humanity's connection to the cosmos ran deeper than anyone realized. Others saw it as a warning, fearing it signaled an impending threat. Protests sprang up outside government buildings, with crowds chanting slogans ranging from "Unity through stars" to "Protect our future." Amidst the chaos, Elias knew his role was crucial. He had always believed in the power of diplomacy to bridge divides, but this challenge tested even his deepest convictions. As he prepared to dive deeper into the mystery, he couldn't shake the image of Lyria's sorrowful eyes, or the quiet innocence of the child she called Solon. Little did Elias realize that this enigma was only the beginning of a journey that would take him across galaxies, unravel ancient secrets, and force him to confront truths about life, love, and the very nature of existence itself. The revelation of Solon's existence sent ripples through the galaxy, but for Dr. Elias Carter, the mystery deepened with every passing moment. As he settled into his temporary quarters within the crystalline palace of the Zyrethians, he couldn't stop thinking about the enigmatic Princess Lyria and her human child. What secrets lay hidden behind her violet eyes? And how could such a union between two vastly different species even be possible? Over the next few days, Elias met privately with Lyria to learn more about the circumstances surrounding Solon's birth. The princess was hesitant at first, her words carefully chosen as if she feared saying too much. But as trust began to form between them, she opened up, sharing fragments of a story that sounded almost mythical. "It happened during a mission aboard the Starweaver," Lyria explained, her voice soft yet tinged with emotion. "I was tasked with exploring uncharted regions of space, a duty reserved for members of the royal family. My mother believed it would strengthen our understanding of the cosmos." Elias listened intently, scribbling notes on his datapad. He had studied the Starweaver before. It was one of the most advanced exploration vessels in the Zyrethian fleet, equipped with technology capable of mapping entire star systems. Yet something about this particular journey seemed unusual. "We ventured farther than any Zyrethian ship had gone before," Lyria continued. "It was there, beyond the edge of known space, that we encountered something extraordinary." Her gaze drifted toward the window, where the twin suns cast their warm glow over the palace grounds. For a moment, she seemed lost in thought, reliving memories that were both beautiful and haunting. "A nebula," she whispered finally. "Unlike anything I'd ever seen. Its colors shifted constantly, like waves of emotion frozen in time. It pulsed with energy, ancient, powerful, alive." Elias leaned forward, intrigued. Nebulas were common in space, vast clouds of gas and dust that often served as nurseries for new stars. But what Lyria described sounded far more complex and far more mysterious. "I felt drawn to it," she admitted. "Against all logic, I ordered the crew to enter the nebula. They protested, of course, but I insisted. Something called to me." As she spoke, Elias noticed a flicker of unease cross her face. Whatever had happened inside that nebula, it clearly left a lasting impression. "Inside," Lyria said slowly, "I found him." "Him?" Elias echoed, his curiosity piqued. She nodded, her expression distant. "A human man. At least, he appeared human. He told me his name was Marcus. He claimed to have been stranded there for years, though he never explained how or why. Elias frowned. A human lost in uncharted space. It didn't add up. Humanity's explorations barely scratched the surface of the galaxy, and no records existed of anyone venturing so far from Earth. Still, he pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. What happened next? He asked gently. Lyria hesitated, her fingers tracing the edge of the table where they sat. We connected, she said after a pause. Not just physically, but emotionally. There was a bond between us, something I can't fully explain. It was as if the nebula itself facilitated our meeting, as if it wanted us to come together. Her confession hung in the air, heavy with implications. If what she said was true, then Solon's conception wasn't merely a biological anomaly. It was the result of forces far beyond human comprehension. And then, Elias prompted. When we emerged from the nebula, Marcus vanished. Lyria replied, her voice trembling slightly. I searched for him, but he was gone, as if he'd never existed. All that remained was this. She gestured towards Solon, who lay sleeping peacefully in a nearby cradle. Elias glanced at the child, marveling at the innocence radiating from his tiny form. Despite the complexity of his origins, Solon seemed utterly ordinary, at least on the surface. Yet Elias couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than met the eye. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the news of Solon's existence sparked widespread debate. Governments scrambled to respond, while scientists clamored for access to study the child. Religious leaders interpreted the event as a sign of divine intervention, while conspiracy theorists claimed it was evidence of alien experimentation. Social media buzzed with hashtags like #CosmicMiracle and #HumanHybrid, each post fueling the fire of speculation. Amidst the chaos, a shadowy organization known as the Unity Front emerged, gaining traction among those who saw Solon as a symbol of hope or fear. Their leader, a charismatic figure named Cal Voss, delivered impassioned speeches calling for calm and cooperation. Solon is not a threat, he declared during a live broadcast. He is a bridge, a living testament to the potential harmony between humans and aliens. We must embrace this opportunity, not squander it. While some praised Voss's vision, others accused him of manipulating public opinion for personal gain. Tensions escalated as protests erupted in major cities worldwide, with crowds divided over whether Solon represented salvation or destruction. As days turned into weeks, Elias observed Solon closely, noting subtle traits that set him apart from ordinary infants. The boy grew rapidly, his development far surpassing that of a typical human child. His laughter carried an ethereal quality, resonating like music that calmed even the most hardened skeptics. Strangely, animals seemed drawn to him, flocking to his side whenever he entered a room. One evening, while walking through the palace gardens with Lyria, Elias witnessed another peculiar phenomenon. Solon reached out toward a cluster of glowing flowers, and to everyone's astonishment, the blossoms began to sway in rhythm with his movements. It was as if he possessed an innate connection to the natural world, a gift neither fully human nor Zyrathian. This isn't normal, Elias murmured, watching in awe as the display unfolded. He's exhibiting abilities we've never seen before. Lyria nodded gravely. I know, she said, and I fear what it means, for him, for us, for everyone. Her words lingered in Elias's mind long after they returned indoors. Solon's unique nature made him a beacon of hope, but it also made him a target. Already, factions within both human and Zarethian societies were vying for control, eager to exploit his potential for their own agendas. Elias knew that protecting Solon wouldn't be easy. The child's very existence challenged everything humanity, and the Zyrethians thought they knew about life, identity, and destiny. Yet, as he gazed at the sleeping infant, Elias couldn't help but feel a glimmer of optimism. Perhaps Solon truly was a bridge, a chance to unite two worlds torn apart by fear and misunderstanding. But first, Elias needed answers. and he suspected the key to unraveling this cosmic mystery lay buried in the past, waiting to be uncovered. Dr. Elias Carter spent sleepless nights poring over the fragments of Princess Lyria's story, trying to piece together the puzzle of Solon's existence. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became that the answers lay not in modern science or politics, but in history, ancient history. If Solon truly was a bridge between humans and Xyrathians, then perhaps their connection ran deeper than anyone had imagined. But where could he begin searching for such knowledge? Lyria sensed his frustration and approached him one evening as he sat alone in the palace library, surrounded by holographic projections of star charts and historical documents. Her presence startled him momentarily. She rarely ventured into this part of the palace. "Elias," she said softly, her voice carrying both authority and vulnerability, "there is something you must see." Without waiting for a response, she led him through winding corridors lined with crystalline walls that shimmered faintly under the glow of bioluminescent lights. They descended a spiral staircase carved from translucent stone, its steps humming faintly beneath their feet. At the bottom, they reached an ornate door sealed with intricate patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. Sensing the weight of what she was offering. "Are you sure about this?" he asked cautiously. "If your people find out." "They won't," Lyria interrupted firmly. "Not if we act quickly. I believe whatever caused my union with Marcus, and Solon's birth, is tied to secrets hidden here. We need to understand why this happened before others exploit it." With a deep breath, Elias nodded. Together, they stepped inside. The vault was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Rows upon rows of glowing crystals stretched endlessly in every direction, each containing encoded data spanning millennia. The air hummed with energy, and faint whispers echoed around them, as though the very walls were alive with memories. Lyria guided him to a central console, activating it with a wave of her hand. A holographic interface materialized, displaying categories ranging from ancient prophecies to forgotten alliances. "We'll start with the prophecies," Lyria decided. "They often contain truths disguised as myth." She tapped a sequence of commands, and a series of images appeared. A swirling nebula, twin suns, and a figure standing at the center, radiating light. Beneath the image, text scrolled in an archaic script that Elias couldn't read. Lyria translated aloud. "When the stars align and the Bridgeborn walks among us, two worlds divided shall become one. Through him, unity will bloom, or chaos reign eternal." Elias felt a chill run down his spine. Could Solon be the Bridgeborn mentioned in the prophecy? If so, his role extended far beyond being a mere hybrid child. He was destined to shape the future of humanity and Xyrathians alike. As they delved deeper, they uncovered references to an ancient alliance between humans and Xyrathians, a partnership forged during a time of cosmic peril. According to the records, humans and Xyrathians had once coexisted peacefully, sharing technology, culture, and wisdom. This alliance, however, ended abruptly due to betrayal. Details were scarce, but one phrase repeated itself throughout the archives: "the shattering." "What does it mean?" Elias asked, pointing to the ominous term. Lyria frowned, her expression darkening. "I've heard whispers of it in royal teachings, but nothing concrete. It's said to have been a catastrophic event that severed ties between our peoples forever. Some believe it involved the misuse of powerful artifacts, while others claim it was a war sparked by mistrust." Elias mulled over the implications. If humanity and Xyrathians had once been allies, then Solon's birth might represent an opportunity to rebuild those lost connections. But who or what had orchestrated the shattering? And could the same forces now threaten to tear apart any chance of reconciliation? Their search took a startling turn when they stumbled upon a classified file labeled Project Nexus. Unlike the other records, which were written in poetic language, this document was starkly technical. It detailed experiments conducted centuries ago involving genetic manipulation and interspecies compatibility. One section caught Elias's attention. Subject H72 exhibited unprecedented adaptability, capable of bonding with multiple species on a cellular level. Further testing required to determine long-term viability. H72. Elias muttered, "Do you know what this refers to?" Lyria shook her head, her violet eyes wide with alarm. "No, but it sounds like they were attempting to create hybrids. Why would my ancestors do such a thing?" Before Elias could respond, another entry caught his eye. Buried within the notes was a reference to a specific location, the Luminal Nebula, the same nebula where Lyria claimed to have met Marcus. It wasn't random, Elias realized aloud. Your __ are in the nebula. It was planned. Someone wanted you to meet Marcus. Lyria looked stricken. But who? And why? Elias didn't have an answer, but he suspected the truth lay buried even deeper within the archive. As they continued their investigation, they discovered cryptic mentions of a group known as the Celestial Architects, a mysterious entity believed to guide the fates of civilizations across the galaxy. According to legend, these architects manipulated events on a cosmic scale, ensuring balance or chaos, depending on their whims. Could the Celestial Architects have orchestrated Lyria and Marcus's meeting? Was Solon their creation, a living experiment designed to unite two fractured worlds? Or was he something else entirely, a force of nature beyond mortal comprehension? Back on Earth, tensions escalated as factions vied for control of the narrative surrounding Solon. Scientists demanded access to study him, claiming his unique biology could unlock breakthroughs in medicine and genetics. Religious groups hailed him as a messianic figure, while conspiracy theorists accused the Xirathians of engineering a biological weapon. Governments struggled to maintain order as protests erupted worldwide. Amidst the turmoil, Calvos and the Unity Front gained significant influence, positioning themselves as mediators between opposing sides. In televised speeches, Voss urged calm, emphasizing the importance of cooperation. Solon is not a threat, he insisted. He is a symbol of hope, a reminder that unity is possible, no matter how impossible it may seem. Yet behind closed doors, Voss's motives remained unclear. Whispers circulated that he sought to use Solon as leverage to consolidate power, leveraging public fear and admiration to further his own agenda. By the time Elias and Lyria emerged from the Vault of Echoes, exhaustion etched into their faces, they knew they had barely scratched the surface of the mystery. What they had uncovered raised more questions than answers, but one thing was certain. Solon's existence was no accident. Forces older and greater than either of them had set events into motion, and now it was up to them to navigate the storm. As they returned to the main levels of the palace, Elias glanced at Lyria, noting the determination in her eyes. Despite the overwhelming odds, she refused to give up. Not on her son, not on the fragile peace between their peoples. "We'll protect him," Elias promised quietly. "Whatever it takes." Lyria nodded, clutching a small crystal containing copies of the files they'd retrieved. For Solon, and for all of us. Little did they know, the revelations contained within those files would soon thrust them into a battle not just for survival, but for the soul of the galaxy itself. Dr. Elias Carter stood in the dimly lit chamber of the Vault of Echoes, his mind racing as he processed the revelations hidden within the Forbidden Archive. The ancient texts and cryptic references hinted at a connection between humanity and the Xirathians far deeper than anyone had imagined. Yet one question loomed larger than all others. Who was Marcus Hale, the man Lyria claimed to have met inside the Luminal Nebula? If Solon's father truly was human, then uncovering his identity might hold the key to understanding the child's extraordinary origin. Elias shared his thoughts with Lyria later that evening, as they sat together in a secluded corner of the palace gardens. The twin suns cast long shadows across the crystalline pathways, their golden light reflecting off the serene pools that dotted the landscape. Solon lay asleep nearby, his tiny chest rising and falling rhythmically, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him. "We need to find Marcus," Elias said finally, breaking the silence. "If we can locate him, or at least learn more about him, it might explain why you two crossed paths in the nebula." Lyria hesitated, her violet eyes clouded with uncertainty. "I told you everything I remember," she replied softly. "He vanished without a trace after we left the nebula. It's as if he never existed." "But he did exist," Elias countered firmly. "And if the records from the vault are correct, his presence wasn't random. Someone wanted the two of you to meet. Someone powerful enough to manipulate events on a cosmic scale." Lyria nodded slowly, her expression troubled. "Then where do we start?" Elias turned to Earth's archives for answers, combing through historical databases and mission logs in search of any mention of a human named Marcus Hale. At first, his efforts yielded little more than dead ends. Dozens of individuals with similar names, but no clear connection to the nebula or the Xyrethians. Just when frustration began to set in, however, a name caught his attention. Captain Marcus Hale, a decorated astronaut who led a deep space exploration mission decades earlier. According to official reports, Hale's vessel, the Odyssey Dawn, had disappeared during an expedition near the edge of known space. The mission was classified as a failure, and its crew presumed lost. But buried within the classified files was a single line that sent chills down Elias's spine. "Last transmission received from coordinates matching the luminal nebula." Could it be mere coincidence, or was this proof that Marcus Hale had somehow survived and found himself ensnared in the same mysterious phenomenon that drew Lyria? Armed with this new information, Elias approached Queen Valithra, requesting access to advanced Xyrethian technology capable of probing the nebula's residual energy field. After some deliberation, the Queen granted permission, recognizing the urgency of their quest. Together, Elias and Lyria boarded a sleek reconnaissance craft equipped with sensors designed to detect anomalies undetectable by conventional means. As they approached the nebula, Elias couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and trepidation. The swirling mass of colors before them seemed alive, pulsating with an otherworldly energy that defied explanation. Streams of light danced across its surface like veins of liquid fire, shifting unpredictably as if responding to their presence. "This is where it happened," Lyria murmured, her voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's engines. "This is where I met him." Guided by the ship's instruments, they ventured deeper into the nebula, navigating through layers of shimmering mist until they reached a dense core of radiant energy. Here, time itself seemed distorted. Seconds stretched into minutes, and the boundary between reality and illusion blurred. Suddenly, the ship's sensors detected something, a faint but distinct signal emanating from the heart of the nebula. Elias adjusted the controls, focusing the scanners on the source. On the main display, a holographic image flickered to life, a translucent figure standing amidst the swirling chaos. It was Marcus Hale. "Marcus!" Lyria exclaimed, her voice trembling with emotion. She stepped closer to the screen, reaching out instinctively as if trying to touch him. The figure turned toward them, his features recognizable yet ethereal. His eyes glowed faintly, and his form appeared semi-transparent, as though he existed somewhere between worlds. Despite his ghostly appearance, there was no mistaking the intelligence and sadness in his gaze. "I wondered if you'd come," Marcus said, his voice resonating like a distant echo. "Lyria, Elias, how are you still here?" Elias asked, struggling to keep his composure. "What happened to you?" Marcus sighed, his expression heavy with regret. "When I entered the nebula, I encountered something beyond comprehension, a force older than stars, wiser than civilizations. It called itself the Celestial Architects. They showed me visions of unity and division, of futures forged and shattered. And then, they chose me." "For what?" Lyria demanded, tears welling in her eyes. To bridge two worlds, Marcus explained. You see, your meeting wasn't random. The architects orchestrated it, using me as a conduit, a vessel, to bring hope to fractured peoples. Solon is their creation, born not just of flesh and blood but of destiny itself. Elias exchanged a glance with Lyria, both overwhelmed by the implications. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. I couldn't, Marcus admitted. My physical form was destroyed, but my consciousness remained tethered to the nebula. The architects allowed me to watch over you, from afar. I wanted to protect you, Lyria, to guide you, but I couldn't intervene directly. And now, Elias pressed. Can you return? Can you help us understand what Solon means for everyone? Marcus shook his head sadly. My time grows short. The tether weakens with each passing moment. But before I go, I must warn you. Solon carries great power within him. Power to heal or destroy. You must teach him to wield it wisely, for the fate of both our peoples depends on him. With those final words, Marcus's form began to dissolve, fading back into the nebula's radiant embrace. Lyria reached out again, calling his name, but it was too late. He was gone. Returning to the palace, Elias and Lyria processed what they had learned. Marcus's revelation confirmed their suspicions. Solon was no ordinary child. He was a living embodiment of unity, destined to play a pivotal role in shaping the future of humanity and Zarathians alike. But the weight of his potential burdened them both. On Earth, news of their expedition spread quickly, sparking renewed debate about Solon's significance. Scientists clamored for access to study him, while political leaders argued over jurisdiction. Meanwhile, Kel Voss and the Unity Front seized the opportunity to rally support, framing Solon as a symbol of hope in uncertain times. Yet amid the chaos, Elias and Lyria resolved to shield Solon from those who sought to exploit him. They knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but they also believed in the promise he represented. Together, they vowed to prepare him for the responsibilities awaiting him, ensuring that whatever path he chose would lead to harmony rather than conflict. As Elias gazed at Solon sleeping peacefully in his crib, he felt a flicker of optimism. The journey hid from his body, engulfing the room. When the glow faded, they found themselves standing in a completely different location, a tranquil grove illuminated by bioluminescent trees. What just happened? Elias gasped, looking around in disbelief. He teleported us. Lyria breathed, clutching Solon tightly. He's learning to defend himself. While relieved that Solon had instinctively protected them, Elias couldn't ignore the implications. Such raw power, wielded without understanding or restraint, could have catastrophic consequences, not just for their immediate safety but for the entire galaxy. Back on Earth, the attempted breach triggered widespread panic. Governments scrambled to respond, deploying military forces to reinforce borders and secure key locations. Meanwhile, rumors swirled about shadowy organizations manipulating events behind the scenes. Some claimed the celestial architects were testing humanity's resolve, while others believed rogue elements within the Zarathian military were orchestrating attacks to destabilize the alliance. Amidst the chaos, Kel Voss delivered another impassioned speech, calling for unity and cooperation. This is not a time for division, he declared. It is a time for courage, for standing together against those who seek to tear us apart. Solon is our future, and we must protect him at any cost. His words resonated deeply with many, rallying supporters to his cause. Yet Elias couldn't shake the feeling that Voss's charm masked darker intentions. Something about the man felt off, as though he were playing a long game whose endgame remained hidden. As days turned into weeks, Elias and Lyria worked tirelessly to prepare Solon for the challenges ahead. They enlisted the help of trusted allies, including Zarathian scholars and human scientists, to guide him in harnessing his abilities safely. Slowly but surely, Solon began to understand the extent of his powers and the responsibility that came with them. Yet despite their efforts, threats loomed ever closer. Radical factions within both species grew bolder, emboldened by the uncertainty gripping the galaxy. Assassination attempts, sabotage operations, and misinformation campaigns became commonplace, straining the fragile bond between humans and Zerathians. Through it all, Elias refused to lose hope. He knew Solon's journey was far from over, but he also believed that the Bridgeborn held the key to uniting two worlds torn apart by fear and mistrust. As he watched Solon practicing his newfound skills under Lyria's patient guidance, Elias allowed himself a moment of quiet optimism. The galaxy stood on edge as preparations for the Grand Council convened aboard a neutral orbital station, known as the Nexus Sphere. This massive structure floated serenely in the void between Earth and Zerathian space, its mirrored surface reflecting the light of distant stars. Designed to host diplomatic summits and resolve conflicts among interstellar civilizations, the Nexus Sphere now became the stage for what many considered the most pivotal event in galactic history, the trial of Solon, the Bridgeborn. Dr. Elias Carter paced nervously within his quarters aboard the Aurora Dawn, which had docked at the station earlier that morning. He knew this wasn't just a trial. It was a spectacle, broadcast live across every inhabited planet, colony, and outpost. Billions would watch as humanity, and the Zerathians decided whether Solon represented salvation or destruction. The stakes couldn't be higher, not only for Solon but for the fragile alliance between two species still struggling to trust one another. Lyria sat quietly nearby, her violet eyes fixed on her son, who lay sleeping peacefully despite the mounting tension. She clutched his small hand tightly, as if afraid someone might take him away at any moment. "He's just a child," she murmured, more to herself than to Elias. "How can they expect him to answer for something he doesn't even understand?" Elias placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll get through this," he said firmly. Together. When the time came, Elias and Lyria entered the Grand Assembly chamber alongside Queen Valithra and several high-ranking officials from both human and Zerathian delegations. The room was cavernous, its domed ceiling adorned with holographic projections of constellations that shifted gently overhead. Rows of seats spiraled downward toward a central dais where Solon would stand, or rather, sit, during the proceedings. Representatives from countless worlds filled the chamber, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of floating luminaries. At the front of the room sat the tribunal, composed of 7 judges representing various factions within the galactic community. Among them were scientists, philosophers, military leaders, and spiritual figures, all tasked with determining Solon's fate. Kel Voss occupied one of the seats, his presence commanding yet unsettling. Elias couldn't shake the feeling that Voss had orchestrated much of the chaos leading up to this moment, positioning himself as a mediator while secretly pulling strings behind the scenes. As the trial began, the lead judge, a stoic Zerathian elder named Calith, addressed the assembly. "This tribunal has gathered to examine the circumstances surrounding the birth and existence of Solon," he announced, his melodic voice resonating throughout the chamber. "Our goal is not judgment but understanding. Only then can we decide how best to proceed, for the good of all." One by one, witnesses took the stand. Scientists presented data highlighting Solon's unique biology, emphasizing his accelerated growth and extraordinary abilities. Religious leaders interpreted his existence as fulfillment of ancient prophecies, while skeptics argued that his powers posed an existential threat to stability. Each testimony painted a different picture of Solon. Some hailed him as a savior, others branded him a harbinger of doom. Amidst the conflicting narratives, Elias stepped forward to deliver his account. Standing before the tribunal, he recounted everything he had uncovered, from Marcus Hale's mysterious disappearance to the revelations hidden within the Vault of Echoes. He spoke passionately about the celestial architects, framing Solon's existence not as a random anomaly, but as part of a greater cosmic plan. "Solon isn't just a child," Elias concluded, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "He's a symbol, a bridge capable of uniting two worlds torn apart by fear and mistrust. To dismiss him as a threat without fully understanding his potential would be a grave mistake. His words stirred murmurs throughout the chamber, some nodding in agreement while others remained unconvinced. When it was Lyria's turn to speak, she rose gracefully, her regal bearing masking the turmoil within. Holding Solon close, she addressed the assembly with quiet dignity. "My son is no weapon," she declared, her voice carrying authority and emotion. "He is a child born of hope, of destiny. Yes, his powers are extraordinary, but so too is his capacity for love and compassion. If you condemn him, you condemn us all to repeat the mistakes of our past." Her plea struck a chord, silencing even the harshest critics. For a moment, the chamber seemed united, not in consensus, but in shared awe of the tiny figure nestled in Lyria's arms. As the trial reached its climax, tensions escalated when radical factions disrupted the proceedings. A group of protesters stormed the chamber, shouting slogans and demanding immediate action against Solon. Chaos erupted as guards scrambled to restore order, but before anyone could intervene, Solon reacted instinctively. A burst of light emanated from his small body, filling the room with an ethereal glow. Everyone froze, overwhelmed by a profound sense of calm and clarity. Memories surfaced unbidden, moments of joy, sorrow, triumph, and loss, binding each individual together in a tapestry of shared experience. Hostility melted away, replaced by empathy and understanding. When the light faded, silence reigned. Even Calvos looked shaken, his usual composure fractured by whatever Solon had unleashed. Caliph, the Xyrethian elder, broke the spell with a simple statement. "Enough. We have seen enough." After deliberating privately, the tribunal reconvened to deliver their verdict. Caliph stood once more, his expression unreadable. "This tribunal finds Solon neither guilty nor innocent," he announced, his voice echoing solemnly. "Instead, we recognize him as the Bridgeborn prophesied in ancient texts, a living embodiment of unity and potential. His future will not be dictated by fear or prejudice, but guided by cooperation and wisdom." Cheers erupted from some corners of the chamber, while others remained cautious. Regardless of personal beliefs, one thing was clear: Solon's existence had changed everything. In the aftermath, plans were made to establish Solon as an ambassador for peace, traveling between planets to foster collaboration and healing. Both Earth and Zirath embraced this decision, heralding a new era of partnership. Yet Elias knew their work was far from over. Protecting Solon and ensuring his gifts were used wisely would require vigilance and sacrifice. As the Nexus sphere drifted silently among the stars, Elias gazed down at Solon, who smiled innocently, unaware of the monumental role he now played. Despite the challenges ahead, Elias felt a glimmer of optimism. Perhaps, just perhaps, the Bridgeborn truly could unite a fractured galaxy and bring light to the darkest corners of the cosmos. The verdict of the Grand Council marked a turning point in galactic history. Solon, the Bridgeborn, was no longer seen as a threat or an anomaly, but as a beacon of hope, a living testament to the potential harmony between humanity and Xyrethians. Yet the road ahead remained uncertain, fraught with challenges that would test the resolve of both species. For Elias Carter, Princess Lyria, and Queen Valithra, the true work had only just begun. With the tribunal's decision final, preparations were made for Solon's new role as an ambassador for peace. A specially designed vessel, christened the Stellar Harmony, was constructed to serve as his mobile home and diplomatic headquarters. Its sleek design combined human engineering with Xyrethian aesthetics, symbolizing the unity it sought to promote. Inside, every detail reflected care and intention. From holographic classrooms, where Solon could learn about different cultures, to meditation chambers designed to help him harness his growing abilities. Lyria stepped down from her duties as princess to focus entirely on raising Solon alongside Elias, who had been appointed as his official guardian by mutual agreement between Earth and Zerathia. Together, they formed an unlikely yet deeply bonded family, united not just by circumstance but by shared purpose. While Lyria provided maternal guidance rooted in wisdom and grace, Ilias offered practical knowledge and unwavering support. Their partnership became a microcosm of the alliance they hoped to inspire across the galaxy. As the stellar harmony embarked on its maiden voyage, news of Solon's mission spread rapidly, sparking renewed interest and debate among the stars. Some worlds embraced the idea of the Bridgeborn wholeheartedly, welcoming him as a harbinger of progress. Others remained skeptical, viewing his presence as a disruption to established norms. Despite these divisions, one thing was undeniable. Wherever Solon went, change followed. During their first stop at a human colony orbiting Proxima Centauri, Solon demonstrated the depth of his influence. The colony, plagued by resource shortages and internal strife, greeted the stellar harmony with cautious optimism. When Solon stepped onto the surface accompanied by Ilias and Lyria, the atmosphere shifted almost immediately. His mere presence seemed to calm tensions, and within hours, community leaders agreed to collaborate on solutions rather than argue over blame. By the time the ship departed, the colony had formed a governing council dedicated to equitable distribution of resources, a feat that once seemed impossible. Similar transformations occurred during subsequent visits to alien worlds. On a planet inhabited by the aquatic Arathians, whose society thrived beneath shimmering oceans, Solon communicated telepathically with local leaders, bridging linguistic barriers and fostering understanding. Among the nomadic Krill tribes, known for their fierce independence, he inspired cooperation by demonstrating how shared goals could benefit everyone. Each encounter reinforced the belief that Solon's powers weren't meant for domination. They were tools for connection. Yet not all reactions were positive. Radical factions emerged, determined to exploit Solon's abilities for personal gain or sabotage his efforts altogether. Assassination attempts grew more frequent, forcing Ilias and Lyria to implement stricter security measures aboard the Stellar Harmony. They relied heavily on trusted allies, including members of the Unity Front who had proven themselves loyal to Solon's cause. Even then, danger lurked around every corner. One such incident occurred during a visit to a neutral trade hub near the Andromeda Expanse. As Solon explored the bustling marketplace with Ilias and Lyria, chaos erupted when a group of mercenaries disguised as traders detonated explosives nearby. Panic swept through the crowd as smoke filled the air, obscuring vision and sowing confusion. Ilias instinctively shielded Solon with his body, while Lyria activated a protective energy field provided by Zyrethian technology. Amidst the mayhem, Solon's eyes glowed faintly, and a wave of calm washed over the area. People stopped running, their fear replaced by clarity. Guards quickly subdued the attackers, and order was restored. Later, as they debriefed aboard the Stellar Harmony, Ilias couldn't help but marvel at Solon's response. He didn't lash out, he observed. He didn't retaliate. He chose peace. That's who he is, Lyria replied softly, brushing a strand of hair from Solon's forehead. Even in the face of violence, he seeks understanding. Back on Earth, Cal Voss and the Unity Front continued to gain traction, though their motives remained ambiguous. Publicly, Voss praised Solon's achievements, positioning himself as a champion of unity. Privately, however, whispers suggested he harbored ambitions beyond diplomacy. Some speculated he sought to use Solon's influence to consolidate power, while others feared he might attempt to manipulate the boy's abilities for darker purposes. Ilias kept a close watch on Voss's activities, enlisting the help of trusted operatives to monitor his movements. Though evidence of wrongdoing remained elusive, Ilias trusted his instincts enough to remain vigilant. He knew that protecting Solon wasn't just about shielding him from physical harm. It was about safeguarding his innocence and ensuring his gifts were used for good. Months turned into years as the Stellar Harmony traversed the galaxy, spreading messages of unity and reconciliation. Solon grew older, his powers maturing alongside his understanding of the world. Under Ilias and Lyria's guidance, he learned to wield his abilities responsibly, always prioritizing empathy and compassion. His laughter still carried the same melodic quality that soothed even the hardest hearts, but now it was accompanied by a quiet confidence, a sense of purpose that transcended age. One evening, as the ship orbited a distant nebula reminiscent of the Luminal Nebula, where Marcus Hale had vanished, Ilias joined Solon at the observation deck. The boy gazed out at the swirling colors, his violet and blue eyes reflecting infinite possibilities. "What do you see out there?" Ilias asked gently. "Hope," Solon replied after a moment, his voice steady despite his youth. "I see a future where we're not afraid of each other anymore, where we can be together." Ilias smiled, placing a hand on Solon's shoulder. "That's a beautiful vision, and I believe you'll make it real." Behind them, Lyria watched silently, her expression filled with pride and gratitude. She thought of Marcus, whose sacrifice had set this journey in motion, and of the countless lives touched by Solon's presence. Though challenges lay ahead, she felt certain that the Bridgeborn would fulfill his destiny, not because of his powers, but because of the love and wisdom guiding him. As the stellar harmony sailed onward, its path illuminated by twin suns and ancient constellations, the universe held its breath. For the first time in millennia, hope burned brighter than fear, a flame kindled by a child born under extraordinary circumstances. And though the road to unity was long and winding, those who believed in Solon knew one truth above all.